All right, everyone, welcome to our state and districts roster selection process meeting. Here's the main things that we're going to talk about. We're going to start by just talking about the difference between state and districts. What are they? Why do we have to go through this process and all that? Then we'll talk about how the actual process selection works. And then we'll talk about, and Aryan will talk about how you actually be that and how you were considered for the roster, how you actually get on it. So let's start with the difference between state and districts. Well, first I'll say why we have to do this process in the first place. Unlike an invitational regular season tournament, for both state and districts, we are limited to a certain number of entries in each event. For the vast majority, I mean, this is a very general statement, for the vast majority of debate events, then you are limited to 4 entries. So that's like a single entry for Lincoln Douglas or a team. 4 teams for PF, for policy, and for LD, obviously, then that would be a single entry as a person, okay? So that's the way that works. For state, for world schools, there are only 2 teams, and then we'll see how many teams they end up giving us or letting us do for districts. That's going to work a little bit different this year, so we'll be in contact with Worlds about how that process works once it's more decided. And then for Congress, we usually get a larger number of spots. Usually, I think last year we had, 11? So that should continue into this year as well. So more spots available in Congress and things like that. But overall, the point is that we have a limited roster, and we have a huge team with enough people to probably fill one of those rosters 3, 4, 5 times over even, and still be very competitive. I would like to think we could have an entire, B team of competitors and probably get second place at these, okay? But that's the way that it works. So let's first start talking about state, and then we'll talk about districts. So state debate. Its purpose is essentially determining the state champion in each event, and then obviously team sweepstakes as a whole. It's hosted by the ISSDA, or ISDA, which is the Indiana Schools Speech and Debate Association. So that's like our state association. It's not technically affiliated with the National Speech and Debate Association at all, although they collaborate with them on some things in their districts. It's a statewide competition, so people from all across the state will be competing. Nobody from out of state will be competing, so no Grand Rapids middle schoolers or anything for this one. And it takes place over 2 days. It's a Friday afternoon and into a Saturday. I suppose I should have put the date on there for this as well. But if you look ahead on the calendar, this is obviously on our tournament calendar, but it's January 30, say again, 30, or no, 30th and 31st. Districts, which we'll talk about in a moment, is just 1 day, and that's on the 21st. Or 24th, sorry. All right, this is our most competitive tournament of the season because it's the best of the best in everybody, from everybody's team. Like, there will be teams there that only compete at state for some reason. They might go to 1 to 2 tournaments throughout the year, but they'll be there at state. Our goal overall for state is to be the first place team, okay, to win first place in sweepstakes points. And so how do you do that? You do that by having as many entries as possible, breaking to elimination rounds. It's an elimination tournament, so you end up in a bracket after those preliminary rounds on Friday and the beginning of the day on Saturday. And so we want as many entries as possible, breaking into elimination rounds. Every single person who breaks gets points for us as a team, and then the further you advance, the more points you earn. And so we want as many people placing as high as possible to earn the most possible sweepstake points. Pretty simple. All right, now let's contrast this with districts. Okay, so basically going back to state for a moment, basically we're trying to choose the competitors who we think are most likely to place highly, okay? And so we'll talk about that. Now, districts works a little bit differently. First of all, for district debate, the first thing I need to point out is that you must have at least 25 NSDA points to compete at districts. Now, this is not a hard goal to meet. Does anybody know how many points you get, NSDA points, you get for a loss? If you compete in a round of debate and you lose, how many is it? Ananya? 3 points, okay? So this means that you could go to 2 tournaments, and how many do you get for a win, by the way? 6, double that. This means that you could compete at 2 tournaments, do 4 rounds at each one, and lose every single one of those rounds but one, and you've got 25 NSDA points. All right, so this is not a difficult thing to necessarily hit. Now, I will say if you've only won 1 round, your chances of being selected for the roster are probably not very high, but that's a different point, okay? You do have to have 25 NSDA points. The purpose of the district debate tournament is essentially a national qualifier tournament. It determines who goes to nationals in June. And because of that, we want the people, while for the most part, the state and district roster will look identical for the most part, if there are people that you already know, hey, I can't go to nationals, I have something else going on that week, or I have no interest in going to nationals, that's fine. Let us know that, and don't mock for the district roster, okay? Because we don't want somebody taking a spot that could go to somebody else who is interested in going to nationals, and then them winning, they end up qualifying, and then you end up not going, we lose that spot, it might go to somebody from another school or something like that. It goes to whoever placed right below you. So it determines who goes to nationals. It's hosted by what's called the district committee. So the NSDA is divided into different districts. Our state has, I want to say, 4 or 5 districts. I think 4 or 5, somewhere in that 4. 2 of them are here in central Indiana, Hoosier Heartland and Hoosier Crossroads. We're in Hoosier Crossroads, but we're unique in that we combine our district tournaments so that we just run them together. This still means that we get, for most events, 2 qualifiers for each district, but that's just the way we've just run them together. So this is a district-wide competition. It is only competition with here in central Indiana. So it's not as competitive as state, and historically we've done really well and qualified a lot of people to nationals. So the goal is for everyone who wants to go to nationals, which should be everyone who competes at districts, to qualify in their event as much as possible. All right, and ideally, and this is the pie in the sky goal, the goal would be that we get all of our entries get those top 4 spots, so that no matter what, we have Carmel folks that are able to go to nationals, even if somebody who placed 1st or 2nd can't go. Okay, that's the goal. So we do that by having as many entries, placing high. Again, ideally the top 2, top 4. That's what we want to do. Even if you get into the top 4, again, or just wherever, the higher you place, the more likely you are to get to go. In case other people have to drop or something like that or aren't able to go, then it just goes to the person below them who placed there. All right, so let's talk about how the roster selection process works. And for this, am I covering this or are you covering this? You got it? Okay, I'll turn it over to Aryan to talk about how the actual roster selection process is going to work, and then try to stay in the frame here for that, if you can. Yeah.
That's all good. Okay. Just kind of brief overview of like how this roster selection process works. So you now know that yes, our tournaments are in January, that 24th day for districts, and then 30th and 31st date for state. So in terms of selection process, these are goals that we sat down as officers like I think 1 or 2 weeks ago, and we discussed like how can we be the most accountable, like fair, and also transparent for what these tryouts actually look like, right? So ensuring that everybody knows what exactly the procedure is to make these district and state teams. So in terms of the process, right? We're gonna send out a link today after today's meeting in Slack. So be sure, like, and I think this should be a habit for everybody. Be sure you're checking your Slack like every single day, just one time. Like, end of the day, just check your Slack and be sure you're checking for these updates because, especially for districts and state where we have more kind of complicated things going on and moving parts, be sure you are checking your Slack in order to get said information. Also, like you'll sign up and you'll indicate which tournaments and events you like to try and earn a spot in for your availability to mock for a spot. So per se, like you're an individual who may not be interested or available to go to state, you can select that, hey, I just want to try out for districts. That is an option for you. So you are not essentially obligated to do both tournaments, but you have the option to just do one over the other. Just shake of heads, does that make all sense? Okay, perfect. Okay, in terms of kind of this general process. So obviously all the information is on your screen right there. So when you guys do submit this form, and this form is due by, I believe we said next Tuesday?
Yes.
Next Tuesday is when the form is due. When you submit the form, and be sure that your partners, etc., they also submit the form as well, because if you guys just submit it by yourself, but your partner doesn't do it, we can't really take it because we never had submission for the partner. So be sure everyone on your team does so. Next Tuesday, after practice, officers will sit down. We're going to make our mock schedule. Basically, given the times that you guys are available, given the times that your partners are available, given times that other teams in your event are available, we're going to sit down, make this big schedule where we can see, okay, when can we mock and when can we determine who will be our state and district rosters. Our event heads, so I know a couple here, Ismail Hani in here. I think that should be it. Okay, no, not really many event heads here, but in terms of what that looks like, they will be the ones who make that kind of choice, and then me and Coach McMillan will kind of verify it. Most of the time, like unless there's some crazy take of an event on, or crazy take of an entry on there, we'll talk to them. But the majority of the time is that whatever they say goes. In terms of final rosters, that is exactly what they want to prefer. So they will send that recommendation to Coach McMillan. So essentially what it looks like, broad scheme of things. When we come back from Thanksgiving break, we will start mock debates for the state and district rosters. And a leniency promise to you guys, I promise all you guys right now that, and we've communicated that to event heads, there will be no mocks during the ACE week. So hopefully that helps out with stress, and because I know ACEs are very stressful. So during finals week, don't expect mocks, and we'll see even about hosting practice. We'll cover that more eventually later. But bottom line is, the week we get back from Thanksgiving until that, I believe, second week of December, we're hosting mock rounds to determine who exactly gets to go to state and districts and who will not be. And as this bottom point says, that Coach McMillan will determine the final roster after like final approval, and when we get back from winter break, he'll send it in the announce channel so you'll know if you made the roster or not. Oh, the clicker. Okay, more on kind of just the rationale behind this. So, should do last one. Okay. So in the terms of rationale, right, there's multiple different parts. So we try to make this as holistic as possible, right? So we're not going to be like, oh, hey, this person got first at one varsity tournament, surely they're good enough, right? Because if they had just one like tournament where they did really well, that doesn't mean that they're going to be good fit for state. The reason as to why we tell you that is because first, on mock performance, part of like seeing who is the best on your team is having people on the team themselves clash against each other. So we're going to have you guys go against other Carmel teams. So in a way, yes, you are competing against other Carmel teams for your spot on this roster. So that's the mock performances. Your event heads and sometimes me and Coach will also be the ones to evaluate who truly was the best out of that. Let me make a quick note. Raise your hand for World Schools real quick. Okay, solid majority of people. World Schools, it's not like your entire team makes the roster. I think they probably made it clear already. They do something called callback. So they see like who were the better speakers, who were like generally good, who could be the best speakers for a judge, who made the best arguments, etc. It's more holistic and specific towards individuals rather than it is the entire team. So just because one individual may stand out as really good doesn't mean that your entire team makes it. Does that kind of make sense? Okay. Tournament performance, once again, if you are attending tournaments and you are placing well at those tournaments, then yes, we give you more priority, and it's kind of like the very logical thing. We give you priority for that state and district roster thing as well. Tournament and practice attendance. If you, again, as I said, if you've only attended like one or two tournaments, by the time we've gotten to the end of semester, we can't really qualify you to be a good candidate because one, you didn't really show the dedication in the first place, or second, like we don't have much to evaluate based upon of. So that's one thing to characterize, or not characterize, but make note of as well. Okay, this is obviously, we had a big talk about it today, attitude and behavior. If you are somebody who just screws around at tournaments and like you're just like really just leaving the place a mess, like we had this whole talk about it today. If you're doing that, you're violating code of conduct, etc. Like we can't take you no matter what. Like that's a kind of easy deal right there. We will not be able to take you whatsoever, and I hope that kind of makes sense. The fit with the other roster selections. So again, this is kind of like in terms of balance, and this goes along with seniority as well. We want to make sure that yes, even though the seniors have the most experience and they have been debating the most amount of time, part of that comes with like, okay, but how have the underclassmen done, right? Like, are they experienced enough to the point where we can see that they are better than the seniors? So we do ensure some balance on there. And I will tell you, like, I don't know if they're in this room, right? Okay, but we've had freshmen and sophomores as of recent 2 years, they won state in their own events. So just because you may be sitting here right now thinking if you can make the state roster, trust me, making that state roster is very, very doable as a freshman or sophomore, any grade whatsoever. Experience and seniority, once again, that comes upon like most of the times we do prefer people who are older, people who have more experience, people who have been debating longer and attended more tournaments because essentially they have more judge feedback, they know what the tournaments do look like. Just kind of quick comment on the fit with other roster sections. I know, especially for World Schools, Ismail Hani talk more about it, but like they'll talk more about like speaker roles, right? Who was a good prop 3, who was a good prop 1. They're not going to just kind of like pick one person and just kind of throw you in there, right? Like part of it is like kind of like the holistic process as well. So be sure that you are performing the best that you possibly can ahead of that time. You want to add something? Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. Also, what's unique about World Schools is that when we do the mocks for state, you guys won't be competing with your normal teams. We're gonna randomize all of you guys into like a different team to just kind of make it more like about seeing how you work with new people and how you stand out as your own speaker, rather than, you know, which I know it happens a lot where you see that like we can't see your whole skills because you're being helped by another teammate. And in the end, the state team that does get chosen or that does get made for World Schools is gonna have people from like a bunch of different teams. So it's seeing how you guys work like as individuals rather than as a whole unit. So
Hani, do you want to add anything to that, or all good? All good. Okay. 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 This one thing, last thing I want to add to it. There was one thing I also want to kind of add. Like, if you have tournaments and your event heads know that historically you've been hitting like really hard teams, where there's other teams who've been hitting like more easy teams per se, but they've been placing higher than you. Your event heads will holistically review the fact that yes, this individual or this team has been hitting harder teams at these tournaments. So just because you place lower because you're hitting these national qualifying teams, these state qualifying teams, etc., doesn't mean that you're just automatically out of the process. Again, it comes with like ballot reviews, how well of a speaker you were, how well of a debater you were, to ensure that you were the best pick for that event. Okay. Should be okay. Last slide here. How to be considered. First, please make sure that you're communicating with your partner, especially for events like PF and policy. Please make sure you are commuting with your partner and ensuring the fact that you are available on very certain days at certain times. We're trying to make it so that like we're not stretching the event head's time to every single day of the week, but rather kind of be confined to 2 or 3 days throughout the week to ensure that everyone gets a chance at mocking as well. Also, again, complete that Google form, which we sent to Slack via email to parents and caregivers, and that is due at the end of next practice, which is Tuesday, November 18th. So again, if it wasn't very clear the first time, we are trying to do our best this year to be fair, accountable, and transparent to all of you guys who are interested in mocking for said spots. And the second thing is that part of that accountability relies on you guys, being sure that you are checking Slack, being sure that you are filling out the forms that we need you guys to fill out, and being sure that you are attending tournaments to do so. And like, if it doesn't kind of summarize in one point, but like the point now is lock in. Like genuinely, like these determine like where you sit on our team for the next 2 tournaments, or not next 2 tournaments, but 2 months in terms of state and districts roster selections. So again, like seriously, take it seriously, because we're not gonna kind of just have like fun mocks just for the sake of it and sake of practice. It really is like who it truly is competitively the best on our team and can stand out in the state and district realm. I think that should cover the rest of it. Okay, if you have any questions, me, coach, will stay by until maybe 6:20, 6:30-ish. But besides that, you guys are all good to go. Any event-specific questions, you guys can ask your event heads through Slack or next practice as well. But yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, folks.